What you're about to see is the edited version of a live 4-hour seminar taped on the campus of California State University, Chico. Your speaker, Peter Lefkowitz, is one of the nation's strongest trainers in the science of interviewing, and he has international credentials in the professional search and employment industry. The audience is made up of career professionals and college seniors. We at Professional Training Specialists have just one goal in bringing you this information. We want you to be successful when you interview. By utilizing this self-training program, you will separate yourself from the rest of the competition. You will build confidence and gain control over the right information. We're not trying to package you up into something that you're not, but give you powerful tools that will allow you to bring the best of what you are to your interviews. The producers of this tape represent over 45 years in the employment industry, and it's that practical experience that will give you the competitive edge in the real world of interviewing. We recommend that you use this program as a training tool. First, view the entire tape, do the exercises, then review those parts that you need to. We have provided you with specific how-to examples, as well as the reasons why we feel that certain approaches, techniques, and phraseology are important. It is to your greatest benefit to make this information your own. Use your own words, relate it to your own experience. After you have carefully viewed the tape, done the exercises, and rehearsed, then we feel confident that you will be prepared to successfully interview and make the right career decisions for yourself. Now, let's join Peter Lefkowitz.
All of you guys have put yourselves in a receiving mode during the interview. What will I say when they ask me? How do I perform for them when they put me on the spot? Okay? And it's almost like coming into the meeting like, I hope I can handle what you guys put me through, as opposed to, this is an opportunity for me to discuss with you all what I'm all about. Okay? It's an attitude thing. Okay? And one of the things that creates the right attitude is our ability to pull information so we can load up. Does anybody in the audience have a cross pen with them? Do you? Can I have it for a second? Pass this cross pen to Mike back there, okay? and let's picture that that pen is in an interview, so to speak. And what our function is to sell this pen as opposed to ourselves, okay? What I'd like you to do is take a good look at the pen and know that I've come into your store to buy a pen and sell it to me. Put on a presentation about the pen.
I have probably one of the finest pens on the market today. I think it's reasonably priced. It has a very fine point, is what you're looking for. It's very beautiful in color because it's a 14-karat gold. Now, that's about all I can say about it.
Okay, give me a hand. It's hard to do in front of a group. All right, pass the pen up.
I sell business equipment, and I'm very prepared before I go out.
Well, this is a great point. This is a great point. Say that again.
I'm very prepared before I go out on my demonstrations. So.
Okay. All right. The point is that we must prepare ourselves for our product in our interview. Here, let me take this for a second, because I really like these. All right. There are two ways to sell, either yourself or a product. Okay. One is a style that came out of the 50s and 60s and 70s, and it's something that I call presentational push selling. And that means that you take the product or yourself and you lay out all of the qualities and the entities, okay? I've got this, I've got that, the pen's gold, it's got a black tip, it writes smoothly. And then you get down to the closing question, which is, am I employable? You know, am I hireable? Do you want to hire me? Do you want to buy the pen? We've laid out all the qualities, and then we close with, what do you think? Okay? That's the way that 95% of the world sells. I've got A, B, C, D, and E. What do you think? And then you sit back in finger-crossed neurotic anxiety and you wait for the big answer. Okay? That was then. This is now. Now we do something called consultative selling, and we can integrate that into our own interviews as well. If I were to sell this pen as if I were to gather information to interview, you know, before we even discuss, you know, buying this pen, let me ask you a couple of things. First of all, what do you typically use a pen for during the course of the day?
I usually take notes.
And how long is a pen in your hand during the course of the day?
Oh, off and on, probably a couple hours.
How does a pen need to feel in your hand? What kind of feel are you accustomed to having?
Heavy. I like a heavy pen.
How so?
It just feels better.
Okay.
It feels light.
And in terms of the color of ink, any preference?
Black.
And in terms of the way a pen should look, its representation of you as the person using it. Tell me about that.
Well, I think it should reflect my lifestyle and probably my professionalism.
Okay. And for a pen that has all those qualities, typically, what would you spend on a pen like that?
Probably up to $1.98.
Mike, you're a cheap son of a... So, all right, so what you're telling me, in essence, is that if you could find a pen that A, fit comfortably in your hand, B, wrote in black ink, C, had the representation in terms of status and image and so forth, and all of those ingredients were wrapped into $1.98 or less in terms of a pen, you would have an interest in buying that type of a pen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, go out to the car and get your checkbook, because I've got it. Okay, it's right here. Okay, now, who sold who in that confrontation, in that situation?
You basically asked me, what am I looking for in a pen? And I told you.
And then I twisted it around. I determined whether or not I had it. And then all I had to do was say, I've got it. You just boxed yourself into hiring me. You just boxed yourself into buying this pen, okay? There's so much confidence that can be gained by first pulling, okay? Then twisting around the information and delivering it back in a way that we know fits, as opposed to trying to pound this round peg into a square hole and then going, God, I hope it fits. As opposed to, I hope I can set up this meeting so that I can deliver the things that I'm capable of doing, and determining whether or not this woman has an interest in utilizing those skills. Okay? It's an attitude adjustment. Your future boss does not care what you did between 9 and 5. All they care about are the results that occurred during the time you were there. We need to keep that in the back of our mind. Your future boss isn't interested in your opinion of yourself. He or she is only interested in the evidence, in the information, in the proof that you are the best person that they can literally hire or find. Your future boss isn't interested in how you think you've done in your last job. He's interested in seeing the progressively more important demonstrations that you've made for each one of the companies that you've worked with. They want to see a progressive track of how you've jumped from one situation to another, increasing your performance. Your future boss doesn't want to hear about the problems that you faced. All they want to hear about are the solutions that you chose. So, in essence, what I find one of the problems is in interviewing is that we have a tendency of talking about how the clock was made rather than just what time is it. Okay? So we need to focus on the things that are important to them. I guess, just to tell you a little bit about myself, I've been in the employment marketplace for the past 6 years as an executive search consultant. And I guess by my industry standards, they considered my production heavy. And as a result, I received some notoriety and was asked then to teach the business of executive search. So now my company, the Morgan Consulting Group, is a training firm that teaches the executive search and placement industry how to work with people like yourself. But for the first 4 years, I placed people like you. And there were a couple of truths that I found out during this period of time that made me aware of some of the fallacies that exist out there. And that is that people who are prepared for an interview beyond their own natural logic or their own phraseology or their own naturalness don't do well in interviews. They, number one, they don't interview well. Number two, in essence, they've misrepresented themselves. And thirdly, the tenure with their company is a lot less than those people who just go for it naturally and end up making a good match to a company. So the one thing that I learned very early on is that you don't over-prepare somebody for an interview. You let them bring to the table what they're capable of bringing to the table. And then you cross your fingers and hope that it's a good match. If it's not a good match, find out early. But don't over-prepare, okay? We get crazy up here by over-preparation, and it works ourselves up into a panic. We just put too many things into the process of preparation, and we end up taking a very neurotic package to an interview, you know? So that's one of the things I found out. The other thing that I found out while I was doing preparation for this talk, I started viewing videotapes and reading as many books as I could. I found that these tapes, these books, were all designed to make people perfect in their performance. When they say this, you say that. You know, when they come around with this, you counter with this. And it was a system of duck and weaving through an interview process. That's not real life. It's really not. In this room today, we've got real life people. We don't have presidents, vice presidents, executive directors who have enough polish that they can cover any form of fear by years and years of seasoning, of interviewing. We're regular people that get scared to death when we interview. We have regular employers out there who are worse at interviewing than we are. Do you have any idea of the lack of preparation that employers make when they interview? They're not trained to interview. They're trained to be a data processing MIS director. They're trained to be an accounting person. They're trained to be a construction individual. They have no idea as to how to extract information during an interview. This is where our advantage comes in. We can at least set the format of the meeting to make it easier for them to pull together all the information they need to be in a position to make a decision about us. The way that I see it, there are only 5 steps that exist in an interview process. And to be right to the point with them, I see them being this. Number 1, you've got to position your attitude properly. In essence, you've got to get your head right before you interview. You have to know who you are and what you're going to bring to the table before you even start to consider how you're going to present yourself. Number 2, you've got to arm yourself with corporate and job information. Whoever goes into battle without knowing what the opponent's about? Okay? You have to prepare yourself. Mike didn't understand fully how to sell the pen. It's because he only had 5 seconds to look at the pen. Third thing's the most critical, and that is rehearse, rehearse, rehearse. It's as simple as that. The same way that an actor needs to go through his performance or her performance with polish, we have to do the same thing. And the fourth is the actual meeting, which we're hardly going to talk about today, because if we rehearse properly, the meeting's just going to flow the way we want it to flow. And the 5th step is just the follow-up, which is a very simple 2 or 3 step process. Do you guys realize that most people spend more time planning their weddings than they do their marriage? Agree? Most people spend more time planning their vacations than they do their careers. And most people spend more time planning a darn weekend over how to walk into an interview. Okay? Today, we're at least going to take 2 hours just to plan the interview. Okay? That way, when we leave here, we can forget about doing it. You know, we can plan our weekend and we can move forward. Okay? Have a good time. All right. Let's start at the beginning. Okay? First thing is to set your attitude, to get your head right. Before you even start to think about interviewing, you have to make one determination, and that is whether or not you have enough courage to leave your job. I also want to premise this by letting you guys know that we need to put ourselves in a mental frame of mind that we now have found the interview, and we are preparing ourselves to go to the interview, okay? But most people don't visualize the courage that is necessary to make a decision that they're going to leave. In the executive search industry, we find many people come to the search consultant and say, I want this, this, and this. And then when we find that, they're in a position where their knees start to shake, which is a very human reaction. All I'm telling you is you need to deal with this before the interview. Make sure that you're leaving your job for the right reasons. The right reasons are that you're being magnetized towards a stronger situation as opposed to being pushed out by negatives. Okay? Live with the negatives until something else pulls you away Don't just leave because of negatives. Make sure you move for the right reasons. The other thing I want to make you aware of is you must visualize your resignation. Because, you know, if you've ever heard the expression of a velvet hammer, you talk about something hitting you right in the forehead at the time that you're ready to make a change. It's the resignation. How many of you have experienced going in and submitting a resignation and finding out that it doesn't go as easy as everybody conjures it up to be? What kind of things have you experienced from the employer at the time of resignation?
Well, sometimes they try very hard to talk you out of it, and maybe even offer you something better.
But to go one step further, you've already opened your mouth, so you're stuck.
And you've already committed yourself to the other company.
Kind of caught between a rock and a hard place, aren't you?
I've sort of seen a lack of reaction when I expected one and was disappointed.
What do you mean, no counteroffer? I worked my butt off for you guys. What you have to realize is counteroffers don't come for the same reasons that we think they come. We want to think that they come because we were magnificent in our performance, that the company really is going to miss us, that we had such a value to the organization that they can't afford to lose us. That is not the reason why a counteroffer comes. Counteroffer comes simply because it's cheaper to keep you. The alternatives to that are to go out and run the ads, spend the management time doing the interviewing, spending $5,000 to $15,000 on an executive search fee. Counteroffers come because it saves management's ego. What kind of reflection on a manager is it when somebody quits? Okay? What goes on in the manager's mind at the time of a resignation? Oh my God, if another person leaves, especially her, this is going to affect my performance review, I know it. What happens if she leaves and everybody follows suit? What's going to happen to the morale of the department? What's going to happen to the vacation schedules? How am I going to be able to get my job done and sub for Sue? God, I'll tell you what an easy alternative would be. What does she want, $2 grand, $3 grand to stay? It's in the budget. Give her the $3 grand. But that's not what you're going to hear. What you're going to hear is, Sue, this comes as a hell of a disappointment. I don't know how else to put it. You know, for the past 5 years, we've worked together. You know, during your promotion, I tried to do the best that I could in order to get you where you wanted to be earlier than some other people. What's this going to do to the department? How are people going to deal with this? Where have I failed? You know, you're going to get a guilt trip thrown on you, okay? What you have to think about at the time of a counteroffer is the extra $2,000 going to get rid of the problem that there is female discrimination in this firm? Is the extra $2,000 going to open up management's door to listen to suggestions? Is an extra $2,000 going to make me the supervisor that I think I'm ready to? You need to get into gear and in tune with the original reasons why you wanted to make a change. And then you need to set your post, something we say in Missouri. Get your posts set and put them down there and stick to them. And don't allow yourself to be turned around by an empty bag full of goodies that should have been there before you decided to turn in your notice. Also understand one thing, that people who do submit to counteroffers and end up staying with their company immediately have shown the company that they've been able to divorce themselves from that company based on having a carrot dangled. So the first thing that happens, you immediately get taken out of the inner circle of a company if you were in it, okay? And you will be a fidelity risk for the rest of your life there. Statistics show that people who accept counteroffers are back out on the street 6 months down the road. I'm going to give you just a quick, Harold and I, we were coming up here on the plane last night. We got to Kansas City International Airport to make our flight, or series of 4 flights to get here. We were running late. So I had to make a decision, and at that point something clicked on in my head, and I stepped out to the side, and I walked right up to the front of the line, and to an individual that was much larger than I said, "Excuse me, sir, but I need to get on this plane immediately." And I just butt right in front of the guy, and there was something in my voice that caused the gal who was doing the ticket reservations to say, "Not a problem." She took my ticket, and I got on. The point that I'm making is, at the point where something snapped in my brain, where I became more important than everybody else, I developed a sense of purpose, okay? Hopefully not at the expense of other people, but no matter what people tell you, there comes a point when you become critically important. And at that point, I stepped out and I walked up, and I walked differently than I normally walk. You know, I normally walk like this or something like that. I stepped out and I tightened up and I walked, okay? Don't go on an interview before you trap that purpose, okay? Have yourself loaded for bear before you step into somebody's office. Now, you can tone that down into whatever presentation you want, but don't interview with a wishy-washy state of mind. Understand why you're there, okay? All right. In order to get your head right, you have to go in with confidence. Confidence is a word that's very easy to say, but not very easy to muster. There are ways to build confidence. In order to build confidence, you have to find a certain degree of self-esteem. You have to develop a sense of worth. And before you develop that sense of worth, you cannot receive the self-esteem that produces confidence to walk into an office with the feeling of, I know why I'm here and I'm good at what I do. So what we're going to do is we're going to play a little bit of a game of questions that's going to enable us to build a certain sense of net worth. The first thing that we have to ask ourselves is, where is the employer's focus? What do they want? By hiring this individual, how will my firm make more money? How will my firm save money? Or how will this person organize things to make systems go better in the company? Okay, efficiency, savings, or increases. Those are the three things that I'm interested in. Now, if the person has a nice personality and the chemistry is right and they're technically sound, all of those things package into why I want to hire somebody. But those are the three elements that I need to concentrate on to hire effectively. With that in mind, I'm going to ask us to think about certain things that develop a sense of worth and understanding of our own being. The first thing that you have to understand is what type of an individual you are in terms of your contribution to a corporation. When I interview somebody, I play a little game with them, and it's really not a game, it's just some direct questions, and we might do this ourselves. Hypothetically, if each one of us were asked to join a special task force of, say, 10 individuals to perform a particular project to completion, what part would each one of us have in that project? What type of a contribution based on the skills that you were given in life? Not what you learned in school, not your knowledge of dietary nutrition, but the things that you're good at. Are you good mechanically? Are you a numbers person? Are you a people rouser? What did this higher being give us? What did we bring with us, okay? It wasn't all the technical things that we've learned in school. It's the things that life has taught us that we've become good at. So I'm going to categorize a couple of different type of people and think about whether or not one of these categories is something that suits you. Am I a creative thinker type? Am I a planner? Am I a systems or organizational type of person? Am I a tinkerer? Am I mechanically inclined? Do I look at something in a three-dimensional way and see inside the box as to how we can move things around and mechanically put things together? Am I a promoter type? Do I hear a belief and then get behind it and spread it? Am I a numbers person? Am I oriented towards analysis and balance? Am I a high-focused person? Meaning, do I work best on a one project at a time? No. Put this on my desk just like that. Don't touch it until I get done with it, okay? Just give me one project that I can focus in. When we're done with that, let's move on to the next one. Am I that type of an individual? Am I a big picture, what people have called me to be, an octopus? Do I have a number of different arms that are in different projects at once? Are you comfortable with working a lot of multi-project orientation? Are you I don't know how to phrase this any other way than this, don't handle it, I'll do it myself type of person? A lot of us who haven't received good managerial training are, don't touch it, I'll handle it. And we want to do everything ourselves rather than delegating and coordinating. Are you that delegator, coordinator? You do that, you do that, you do that. Let's all get together and discuss what we've done. You have to think about yourselves in the light of what type of an individual contribution can I ultimately make to a company in terms of the type of person I am, okay? Once you do that, then we figure out how can we make money, save money, or get organizational things set up better. Now, after you've determined those things, and you also have to determine, incidentally, whether or not you're a follower or a leader. And there ain't nothing wrong with being a follower. And if that is a trait that you have, you need to stimulate that in the interview process in a way that's diplomatic and doesn't sound degrading, obviously. The word follower needs to be presented in a format that does not carry the typical connotation, okay? But determine if you're a good follower or if you're a leader. Those are important. So once we've categorized ourselves that way, in order to build our self-worth, we then ask a number of other questions. Number one, did you help increase sales production in any way in your company? You think about it. Actually stop and think about it. Were you able to save your firm any money? Did you help institute a new system or a new procedure within your company? Did you identify any problems that had ever been overlooked? Now let me ask you guys, let's stop with that question. And as I call these questions out, I'd like to hear what your thoughts about if anybody has done some of these things. Who's identified a problem in a company that went overlooked?
No one has ever asked me. I frequently feel like the interviewers are not at all prepared, that someone ahead of them has scanned through the things and picked out the qualified applicants, and someone else gets to interview us as we're called in. They have not even read the stuff.
Which is exactly why it's important to think about these questions and to bring them out, because they won't be asked. Another question that we can ask ourselves to develop self-worth: did you ever help establish any new goals or objectives for your firm? Many people do that during the course of their normal job. They just don't bring it out in an interview. Did you do anything in the company that most people thought couldn't be done or was never done before?
I had a sales goal one year of to increase sales by 25%. I happened to increase sales by 40%. And people were amazed that they didn't think 40% was attainable by anybody.
Excellent. Excellent. We need to bring those things up. We need to bring out that innovation during our meetings.
Well, it's a diplomatic way of doing that without sounding like you're tooting your own horn or pushing it.
It needs to flow into the conversation at a point where it can't come all the way from left field. And Mr. Employer, I'd like to make you aware of something that I've done in order to, okay, it has to be integrated into the flow of conversation, which means that when we have a meeting, and let's get rid of this word interview, okay? And let's break it down to a meeting, just two people talking at each other and sharing information together. That as this meeting is going on, you try and position yourself so that you are conversing rather than question and answer. Question and answer. You ask the question, I perform. You ask, I perform. No, they've got to perform along with us.
Are you saying that when you go into an interview, you should relax the situation as much as possible?
I think that when you go into an interview, if you put the burden on yourself to create an environment that you're comfortable with, you will perform better than if you go in going, okay, what's he going to